Dr. Melissa. Welcome to Everyday Rockstar Moms, where every episode I'll interview moms just like you who are rocking it in their homes, raising their children, managing their households, building their careers, working on their relationships, dealing with challenges, finding success, trying to find balance, and themselves along the way. Every episode you'll hear from women just like you of all ages and stages of motherhood, sharing their stories, life experiences, and leaving you with practical tips, ideas, and inspiration to help you rock your life. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Justine Blainey-Broker. Justine is a passionate doctor, an athlete, a devoted wife, and mother to Hannah, who is 15 years old, and Teo, who is 13. Today, she shares her ideas about motherhood, and we also talked at length about the value of competitive sport in her life, for her as well as her children. She shares some of her experience in fighting for equality in the hockey world as a youth, and the impact of being an activist, how that shaped her as a woman and continues to influence her today. Justine is a very busy woman. Today she shares also some of her tips about how she manages their family's busy schedule, the value of a few key rituals for her every day, the importance of having her support team, and some of her strategies for keeping her marriage strong. Justine is a dynamo. She's a powerhouse, a hard worker with really strong values. I thoroughly enjoyed today's interview. Loved hearing her perspective. I hope you do too. Take a listen. Hi, Justine.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad that you're here. You know, I've known you through being colleagues in chiropractic profession for years. I certainly know about your influence within our profession in the sports world as well. Some of that will likely come up in our interview today. However, what I'm really excited to talk to you about and hear more from you and interview you about is your experiences as a mom. And I think the best way to start us off is if you could just give our listeners a quick sort of summary of where you're at right now, how old your kids are, you know, whether you work, whether you don't work, just sort of a snapshot of where you are right now with your life.
I have two kids, two amazing kids. So I have a 15-year-old daughter who's a competitive figure skater. So she's doing sports about 30 hours a week. And I have a son who's 13 who plays competitive hockey and competitive baseball. So that's about 25 hours a week. Both my husband and I are hockey players and active at the gym. So we live in and out of sports. And we also have a billet, another young man who's 18, my daughter's figure skating partner. So he lives with us as well. So we have a busy household of athletes, and both my husband and I work full time. So my husband works about 45, 50 hours a week. I work about 75, 80 hours a week. So we manage our lifestyle with multiple drivers and multiple helpers, and definitely a helper inside the house to make it all work. It's all a matter of delegation and a support team to make it happen.
Yeah, when I think about you, if I were to think of one word that I think describes you, it'd be hard to just pick one, but hard worker is certainly one that comes to mind. And one is, an activist. Like even from back when you were playing hockey yourself, you really have a strong sense of integrity and values and things that you believe are right. And I'm sure that carries into who you are as a mother as well as who you are in your practice life.
It absolutely does, and there's always opportunities in sport to deal with challenges and deal with, learning about right and wrong, black and white, but also the gray zones. Mm-hmm. Examples of, when kids are in tryout times or, looking to transfer teams or dealing with a player who's sulking or a player that's not getting a lot of ice time compared to another player, or coaches' differences of opinions, or with figure skating world, there's, always trying to understand the judges, and she's in dance, so the partners are all changing and sort of negotiating who's going to dance with who, and so there's constantly opportunities to use those as learning experiences rather than opportunities to complain. And so our family does try to focus on that, but to take each opportunity to learn from it, or if it doesn't make sense, maybe just sleep on it and figure it out in the morning.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like sports are definitely a huge part of your life. What would you say would be one of your, defining moments as a woman that has really had a huge effect on who you are as a mother? Would you be able to think about, just a couple?
I'm certainly, my background in hockey to fight for equality for women in sport and to play hockey with the guys has been a defining moment for me where I had to stand up for myself.
Could you maybe
and
give,
at a young age,
I know
because
the
that
history
started when I was 10.
Right. Sorry. Could you just tell us quickly what that was?
What
Because
that
I
is.
remember that
So
story
I went
vividly.
to the Supreme Court of Canada, so right from the Ontario Human Rights Code to the Supreme Court of Canada to strike down Section 19.2 of the Human Rights Code that said that you were allowed to discriminate on the basis of sex in sport. So I was prohibited from playing hockey with the guys because I was a girl. So I went to court over basically a 4-year period and then ended up winning and was able to play hockey with the boys until I was about 19. And I went back to women's hockey. And in that experience, I had to speak up for discriminatory issues. And I find now I'm still always constantly in a teaching mode, whether it's teaching, going to high schools and teaching about discrimination, or teaching in my office about healthcare, but about respecting yourself and respecting your body. It's something that is a daily part of my life. As far as defining moments as a mother, I think they come every single day. Like, it doesn't have to be one little thing. It could be this morning I got up at 4:00 and I'm making sure that I have all the vitamins out for the kids, because I know as much as they're great kids, they maybe wouldn't do that, but so I'll make sure it could be the littlest moments of picking up the shoes at the front door, or organizing even though I don't do my own grocery shopping, but I have to make the grocery list, so the defining moments are daily little tasks and acts of love, and those are all the things that just add up. I've certainly been very lucky with great role models, and I'm not just talking my own mother, but even back to my grandmother, who, it was, you weren't only allowed to send white children to white schools and in Holland, and she said, no way, I'm not sending my kids to the all-white school that's an hour away when there's a school that's with black kids that's walking distance. My white 3 little girls are going to go to the black school. And she sent them there. And those are stories I grew up with her, learning about going against the Catholic Church and saying that, we don't need to eat fish on Fridays. We don't even have milk or fish to eat at all. God will understand us if we eat whatever.
Right.
It doesn't matter. He loves us all. So these are the stories that I grew up with, of stories of equality and stories of working really, really hard just to get an ounce of milk during the war. And those stories carry out to the kind of person I think I am today.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure in the sports world and what you went through, and even in day-to-day, you've had criticism at some point, right, with how you conduct yourself, or, things that you're standing up for. How, is there any criticisms or struggles as a mom that come to mind most predominantly?
I think as a mom right now, the criticism would become that I'm too busy and I'm pushy, type A, and that comes as being a competitive type A mom. So it might be, for example, I would have my kids write out their goals for the year, and parents would be like, "Why are you bothering? They're only 15 and 13." Or I would have them have goal boards. I would expect an A average. It would, they're bright children, so I don't expect anything less. So I think that I might have very high expectations, and I would be considered somebody that, maybe works too many hours and has too high of expectations for their kids. But
that's
I expect them to succeed as well. So
yeah, and that's who you are as a person, right? And I think it's important that,
But not a lot of people can understand that. Like I would have no idea what's on TV. I've never watched Grey's Anatomy. I wouldn't know necessarily the latest news on TV or the radio, but my kids will have a goal board. So,
right.
And I'll be making sure that somebody else is healthy enough to get to watch their kids or drive their kids to their sport. So the priorities are different than for other families, but definitely I would be considered, a lot of parents may think of me as being a little bit over competitive. My kids are in competitive sports, but I'm lucky that they drive themselves, and they're the ones that push us to keep them involved in their sport and get them to their sports. So.
It sounds to me like your best response for any criticism or that you may have, and some of it you might not even be aware of if it's happening, but is just to be really strong in your values as a woman and as a family, and you guys are certainly following the things that matter to you, really.
We do, and we don't. Our holidays may be not the traditional Cuba or Mexico. Our holidays are always to see family or to go on a tournament. Or to watch my daughter at nationals. Like our holidays may be different than the average family, but we certainly invest our time and money into our kids' activities and into family time.
Right.
And so it may not be the most, fun trips to Cuba or something like that. We're going to Saskatchewan to visit family, or we're going to Calgary to watch my daughter's nationals or something like that. But for us, that's a world that we love and love to support the kids in their activities.
Yeah. So let's talk about how busy you are. I mean, you said at the beginning there that you're working 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little. Has that always been the case since your kids right when they were born?
I have always been, before kids, a busy person, but it only got busier since I had kids. And certainly I would never say that it doesn't feel, overwhelming at times. It certainly does. There's times, even though I have help in the house, there are definitely times where I just need a nap. But I would say that I do work a lot of hours. I typically start my day around 4:30. I'm trying to work towards 4:30 now, and to 10:30. So, I am trying to get. I've hired a doctor to work for me and to reduce hours, but certainly, there are not a lot. I recognize there's not a lot of people who love their jobs enough that they would want 70, 80 hours a week.
Well, that's, I think, a huge thing that maybe our listeners need to know is that, you're very passionate about what you do, to the point that, you're coaching and leading others as well, and doing motivational speaking. And it's not just something that's a job for you. It's a big part of who you are.
I absolutely love it. And so I don't, I'm not upset to get up and be at work for 6 a.m. I'm excited to be at work for 6 a.m. And it's hard to get me home. So
yeah.
I do, though, have to make regimented times to rest, regimented times to not be on, on the weekends, to make sure I put my phone away, to make sure I get my paperwork done, or if I'm writing a talk, I usually do a talk every week. So I have to put that away, but when they wake up.
Right. So yeah, that would be a big question I would have for you is how do you, I mean, you mentioned you have help within the home, and I'm sure with your husband. How do you balance your career life and your passion for your career with the kind of mom you want to be?
I don't waste a lot of time. And I double that. Certainly having help in the house. When the kids were smaller, we had help about 40 hours a week, and now we about 20 hours a week. So when you take away food shopping, laundry, dry cleaning, and cooking and cleaning, if you think of the average household, that's 10 hours a week right there that's back in my hands.
Right.
If not 20 hours a week back in my hands. So that allows for a lot of time, and I make sure that I multitask. So if you drop off a kid, say, for a sport, and they have to be there an hour ahead, well, I'm spending 45 minutes of that hour doing paperwork, reading, preparing for a speech. Or a lot of times I might even be practicing a speech on the other parents and teaching them while they're waiting. So it's just really making sure that you're organized all the time. And there are times now that I do have teenagers that, guess what, they don't want mom all the time to play on the floor. So they want their own time for their phones or their Netflix or their homework. In fact, I mean, then that's when I would do my homework. And so there'll be times where everybody in the house is doing homework. And it's sort of a respect thing that, we have homework and they have homework. So
Yeah, I can relate to that. I remember when my son was at the arena, now he's old enough, he doesn't need me there. But when he was younger, yeah, that hour before, or even while they'd be there during practices, I would be on my laptop doing something, or using that as active time to maybe read a book or do something, because I wasn't at home, I wasn't in the office. I could actually take a few minutes to be with my younger son and play with him, or to read a book, like do something for myself. So I think you've got to maximize your time.
Yep, and I'm now learning after being injured to schedule me time, which is something I probably wasn't so good at before. So I'm now focusing on, I schedule a massage, at least once a month, and I'll schedule even like a pedicure. Say it's only $20, but I'll go and say like that I need that me time once a month,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to work towards scheduling time now that, I'm just going to bring up, I'm a chick flick book, like just read a soft novel, nothing that has to do with work, and schedule that hour once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working towards learning now, and it's easier now that the kids are teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
towards making sure I have me time, because there is always something to do in your house. Like, as a mother, I think we're always seeing something we could pick up, clean up, wipe up, put away.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
No.
And if I don't schedule it and make it a priority, I become not a priority.
So it's really
I'm working towards making that better. Pardon me?
Really making some self-care for you a
Yeah,
priority,
I've
so
had
that
to
you
do
can
that
take
just
care.
to make sure I had planned some more time for myself. And now and then I'm not talking hours a week. I'm talking, an hour or two where it's focused me time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make that happen now.
Has parenting been what you thought it would be?
I would say that it's everything and more, but certainly when I say more, it's harder too.
Yeah.
I certainly, always wanted to be a parent, but I didn't realize how challenging and rewarding it would really be.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize the time or even financial commitment that it involved. And the more I thought, okay, when they were little, it'll get easier, but it just gets different. And
exactly.
Better.
Yeah. Now, if you were to look back, now you've got two teenagers in your house. If you were to look back at when they were younger, is there advice you would go back and give your younger self? Anything you would do differently?
I think if I looked back, I probably would have taken some more time off in maternity leave. I didn't take any time off. I was running a new business. My doors opened, and 2 weeks later, I had a baby. So I was just under extreme stress and fear financially. I had just opened a business. I didn't want to go bankrupt, and I borrowed all the money from my mother. So if I look back, I would have just had a little more faith that things were going to work out, and maybe take a little extra time at that point. And I think I wish I'd really taken more pictures and recorded everything, and I'm sure a lot of mothers feel the same thing, because when you look back, now you're like, wow, I can't believe my daughter was that small,
I know.
So just to have recorded everything a little bit more, but it was, I think in those first years, it was survival, like breastfeeding for 4 years. So it was up every 3 hours. I only slept 3 hours at a time, 5 hours a day. It was survival mode. And it didn't really kick in that time to enjoy it. I wish I'd taken a little extra time then. But now, I spend that time now.
Yeah. And when you think about, the impact of who your kids are now, I mean, there's tremendous pride, I'm sure, in looking back, but also knowing that, who the people they are now. Sometimes you do the best you can in certain circumstances, right? And we certainly don't want moms feeling that any of their choices, whether it's to work or to, a lot of moms that be in the exact same position as you. And it's not about, feeling guilty or looking back. It's just, how do we move forward or look at something a little bit differently?
There was nothing. I mean, I had to survive. There was no money. There was just debt, school debt, and that was the name of the game to be able to even be in the position that we're in right now. So I don't want to feel guilty about it, but if I had to do it again, I certainly, that would be one of the things. And I certainly am thankful that I did get the coaching to get help. At one point I thought, I can do it all, and I can make it work. And soon as I added that extra bit of the help in the house, I found the quality time improved significantly with the kids. The stress load went down, the trying to be it all and do it all attitude. When I dropped that, it made life a lot less stressful, and I think a lot more able to be able to have more quality time with the kids. So I'm happier once I learned that delegation skill, and didn't feel like it had to be everything perfect. I know at one point I don't know if you'd call it OCD, but I didn't like anything a mess ever. And when you have little kids, that's like so hard. Then like always had to be put away perfectly before I went to bed. No dishes in the sink, or the dishwasher was on or empty. Like everything had to be organized. And now, just letting things be a little bit freer. And so what if there's a few things on the kitchen counter that are the kids and it's just disarray, or so what if there's a few shoes at the front door that haven't been put away in the laundry room or something like that. The simplest things, learning to drop those things, and that it's it's okay if a friend came by and saw that we live as a family. That made life a lot easier.
Did that happen gradually, or was there any defining moment that shifted your focus like that?
I think it happened a couple times. I had some really bad sicknesses where I couldn't do it, and the world kept going. But certainly just recently, having been seriously injured has been a big shift in my mind that made a big difference for me, realizing what's important and that things can go on without me. And then I think also having had the loss of my stepmother and realizing, her role in my life, her role in my kids' lives, and being able to just say, wait a minute, like she died in her 60s. That to me is, not that far away. So what am I doing to make sure that, the years that I have and the time I have right now is really making sure it's things I love to do and letting go of some of the things that really just aren't that important.
Wise words. When do you, what kind of things bring you the most joy?
I think the greatest things that make me cry, but it's watching your kids happy, whether they've competing in figure skating for my daughter, or coming home with an A in a math test and they're proud to tell you. When they're doing a speech and they're practicing for you, and you see them working so hard. It doesn't matter how they actually did, but when they're practicing that speech, those are the moments that make a big difference. Or an example is that just when you see them interact with other little kids, and that they're trying to help that other kid or that cousin, and that's when that you really have that proud moment, or that feeling of pride. Then those are the defining moments.
I love how you said, as they get older, you think it's going to get easier, and it doesn't get easier. It just gets different, because I would say the exact same thing. And I share that, I'm sure you do, with women in your practice. When their babies are small and they're toddlers, like the days seem so long, but really it's such a small blip in their whole life as your role as a parent. And as I watch my boys get older, you get excited for them. Your heart fills with watching them enjoy something and become these amazing human beings. And it's just an evolving journey, an evolving relationship that we get to have with these people.
I wouldn't give it up for the world, for sure.
Now let's talk about, you're happily married. What are your secrets to relationship success? I mean, you both busy, both active in sports you've already talked about.
I think there's no relationship that doesn't have it, perfect. And so just understanding that perfect is not really the end goal. But I come from a household where my parents got divorced, and Blake comes from a household where his parents have been together 50 years. So we have some good role models, even parents who got divorced, and now they we went out to dinner together last night, both my parents. and they both have significant others. There's learning experiences in both of them, but what my husband and I do is sort of try and at least monthly. I would love to say we did it weekly, but at least monthly to rate ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you doing out of 10? Like, where's the relationship out of 10? And we rate ourselves. It's at a 6 this month. It's at 10 this month. Like, and we talk about it. So we have that conversation about once a month. And we have date nights. Again, I'd love to say we did it every week, but it's not possible for us. We go and get adjusted together every Tuesday. So we have lunch together every Tuesday, and he has a coffee, I have a tea. Every Tuesday, get our adjustments. So it's a once a week. We always have that connection, the two of us. But date nights are more like once a month or once every 6 weeks. And then we'll have an overnight about 4 times a year where we'll have a hotel room or even just our own house, and we ship the kids out to aunts and uncles or to, the grandparents or something. It doesn't always have to be like we're out of the house. It might be the kids are out of the house, but at least 4 times a year where we have a romantic night for us. And I love to say like it's always intimate and everything, but sometimes it's really just like sleeping together, like without the stress of worrying about getting up early to do this for the kid or that for the kids. It's just cuddling.
Yeah.
So I would say, it's the date nights, date weekends, evaluation times, trying to focus on what we learned from our parents, the good and the bad, of what they've learned from, the divorce or the fact that they've stayed together 50 years. And making sure that each of us have me time. So my husband has time with his guys to play hockey without me, and I have time with the girls to play hockey without him. Mm-hmm. We have time with the kids together on the weekends, but we also have time with the kids individually without each other. So, and that is an organized approach. Like that doesn't just happen. It's actually, there's a focus to make all those things happen. And we notice when we're off focus and we don't, if 2 months go by and we haven't had a date, and a date night might be just lunch or it might be just watching a movie at home. But if we don't have those things, then we do feel out of touch, right? Mm-hmm. And then the big things that we do is we go to seminars, relationship seminars. It's not done all on our own. I'm open to being counseled by other people. So usually about once every 3 years, we will go to a seminar that will be focused on relationships.
Excellent.
To bring it together. And I would say the last thing, my husband is very spiritual, probably more than me, and I'm learning to become more spiritual. He would say that the closer he is to God, the closer he is to me. I'm working on that. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to become more a walk in faith, but certainly in that respect, he can help lead me.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot to consistently, build that relationship. And I love how you said that a big part of that is taking time for yourselves as individuals, because certainly, nurturing ourselves allows us to then nurture others, whether it's our partner or our kids. And I stress that to moms and dads, so much. Like, what can you do this week that's just for you? That's not for you as the mom or the dad or the worker. It's just some time to do something that makes your heart sing and makes you laugh and makes you feel good.
Yeah, so one of the things, for example, that I've picked up, and I never, ever thought I'd like it, and it's funny how you pick up things from your kids. My kids had to make a scrapbook for their school trip, and next thing you know, I love scrapbooking, and I'm making scrapbooks for the kids and my nephew, and it is my time to play with pictures and the glue and the stickers and stuff, and it is my quiet time, because my quiet time, I don't, I'm not a TV watcher, but I enjoy the ability to put that together and make a gift, that's sentimental for somebody else, where somebody else maybe would prefer, playing an instrument or playing on an iPad and playing solitaire. It doesn't really matter, but you just I do agree with you. Is you need things for yourself to keep your mind and spirit as a whole in order to bring more to the party.
Yeah, and I think it's just so valuable, I think, to also have time that's quiet. I mean, you are on all the time. You're someone who gives. You're giving to all of the people in your practice. You're giving to your kids. You're giving to your partner. You're giving to, when you speak to groups of people, you're leading and giving to a lot of people and taking all that energy in too. So I'm sure it's good for you to have some time where no one needs you.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever really feel that way, but I would love to say that I feel that way, but it's always in the background if there's something to do. I'd say I'm a work in progress on that one too. I don't have that one down pat yet. It's really hard to not feel like there's something to do for your family, and it's as hard for me, I think, to not to want to feel needed. Like
Right.
There's a certain part of me that likes to feel needed as well. So to let that guard down both ways, I'm still working on it, but I recognize that that's it. If I put effort into having those quiet times, they'll happen. If I don't put any effort into it, they don't happen, and I typically get sick or I crash. I'll get moody. I won't be the same kind of mom, the same kind of wife, sister, leader that I want to be.
Right. Do you think that moms can have it all? That saying, women can't have it all, or can they?
I believe we can all have it all, whether it's moms or dads or sisters or brothers, with effort and with the understanding that it won't all be easy. Having it all does not mean that it's a walk in the park. Having it all means accepting the struggles, enjoying the struggles, and learning from the struggles, and knowing that they make you a better person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's important to define what that all is to every family. For
Right.
you and your husband, it's sports and it's family time and it's your practice, which you love. And, there's not a lot of time for stuff that wastes your time, right? So you're really clear on what your goals are and your values as a family. And you're playing within those parameters, right? I think sometimes people can get caught up in trying to do other things that really don't fit in with what they really want to be doing. We can all make ourselves busy.
But there is a certain skill in saying no, especially if you're a volunteer. Like once you volunteer for things, people know to go to you and ask you to volunteer for more things. The whole saying is go to a busy person to get something done.
Yeah.
So I definitely have to learn to say no, and again, that's a work in progress. But there's lots of opportunities, whether it's through the church or through different sporting activities. They'll say, can you go on this board or can you go on that board? And I'm like, no, I can't. I can be a counsel. You can come to me to ask for questions, but I cannot commit and do it well, those extra activities, and learning that skill of saying no, or just like going to bed and it's okay if there's some dishes in the sink. That's something that I'm constantly learning to do and trying to focus on saying yes to the things of value and letting go some of the things that, that's not going to make me break it. 20 years from now, will I be thankful that I really did that, or does it, 20 years from now, it's really not going to make a big deal?
Yeah. Well said. Is there, a favorite quote or saying or something that, you always turn to if you've got a tough day, or anything that a script or an affirmation
every
that plays
morning
in your
I
mind?
say, I'm ready to love, I'm ready to give, I'm ready to serve before I start my day. And I start with affirmations every day to get me going. They're posted right where I blow dry my hair. So I read them as I blow dry my hair. And, whenever there are struggles, I'm normally, it used to be, if it is to be, it's up to me kind of thing. And I would always push myself, but now I try to focus on, saying that it's every struggle makes me stronger. It just creates a window of opportunity to learn and focus, and that I'm focused on saying that you're never alone. And I don't, again, think that I'm always believe that. Like when stuff are tough, sometimes you do feel alone. But I feel if I keep telling myself I'm not alone, it works out better. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's definitely part of my goal with the podcast is to help women realize that they're not alone. You might feel you're the only one that has a crying kid, or you're having trouble with your teenager, or, relationship, whatever it is. And there's so much commonality in what women go through as mothers. And I know that, some of the things that you've shared today are going to help other women. So thank you so much for being here. I know your schedule is full and busy, and I certainly think that you're a rock star. You're a rock star in our profession as far as your leadership and your skills and helping others. But, as a mom, you're doing a lot of amazing things. So do you have any last thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think if I focus on last thoughts is, to focus on making sure that it's okay to ask for help.
Right.
And that is not a sign of weakness. That is actually something that people love to help you. People feel better when they're helping somebody else, and it brings people closer together so that when there are tough times, to ask for help, to share those tears, will actually be things that you will be thankful for in the end, and not things that we need to tough it up, suck it up, do it on its own, feel like we're surviving versus we're living.
Right. Well said. Thank you so much, Justine.
You're welcome.
There you have it, a great story today from a mom who rocks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. When you do that, I'll be sending you a copy of my top 10 tips for moms. These are some of my personal practical strategies I believe that as women we can all benefit from and help us be emotionally and physically as healthy as we can be. When you're also there on iTunes, I would also love it if you left a review. It's really important to leave some reviews because that helps other people find the podcast, and it helps inspire them to listen and potentially gain some insight from the podcast. Tell other moms that you know would benefit from this show, or most certainly nominate them and let me know who you think I should be interviewing. I'd love for you to connect with us on Facebook as well. Head on over to Everyday Rockstar Mom and join our community there. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.